So we come to the theory of the second best again, which is to say, well, what we don't like in America apparently is the resources that are unemployed. What can we do about it? Especially if the votes I get politically are basically from, in some degree, this sector of the population. Well, we could devalue. If we devalue, then foreign demand for our goods goes up. Employment goes up. And as it happens, our balance of trade will improve. The deficit on the balance of trade will go down, assuming it's not offset by capital flows suddenly switching adversely. You could say, well, try it and see. Just like with tariffs, try it and see. And if you quickly start to see that it's having an adverse effect in other ways that are not tolerable, well, you'll switch out again. It's as straightforward as that. What do I think will happen? I think China would simply match your devaluation, just like it's matching your tariffs. Whichever policy you do. Well, in that case, there's only one answer to avoid this war, and that is to say, I'm going to unilaterally decide what we're selling and buying from China. Nothing to do with the market, because the other player's not playing by the rules as you see it. Okay? You might want to try that in such a case. You may have to if things just get worse and worse. It's not rocket science, is it? Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Yes, you may have to take action against third parties that buy Chinese goods and then sell them on to you. And, well, you can either prohibit such goods if you can recognise them, but if you think you can't recognise them and it's going on, that they're running a deficit with China and a surplus with you, and there seems to be a suspicious link, then you may exclude them from your trading group, along with China. And the world will then be divided into those that follow China and those that follow the US in their international trading. I think you'll end up with everyone going towards the biggest player, because that's where the biggest market opportunities are. But I'm not certain. I mean, our economic theoretical understanding is not up to the complexity of the real world situation. It's very hard to predict what outcome will really come from a change of policy. But of course, if you get desperate, then it may require desperate measures. You're willing to take greater risk to avoid the desperation, I suppose. We have a more fundamental set of problems in our market economy. One is that prices are flexible up to some extent, but not very flexible downwards. In particular, wages are flexible up, but inflexible downwards. And it's not just because of unions, but, well, in a sense, state monopoly in the labour market, which fixes the regulations within an industry and a skill, recognising only certain skills and fixing wages accordingly. Instead of allowing the market to choose what it pays for any particular labour at any particular time. We like stability, especially the labour force wants stability of wage. It resists the wage falling, either directly by unions or legal contract into the future, or government intervention in declaring minimum wages and so on across the market or within certain skills and so forth. There are other problems, natural monopolies, cartels, not just in the labour market, you see. Another extremely large area is externalities not being reflected in market costs and pricing. Very simply, you're having a party, doesn't compensate the neighbours necessarily. They have to put up with the noise. And really, you should put up with their burden of the noise by there being a cost on you for this inconvenience you cause others. But the world doesn't work that simply. So there are more parties than would be going on if you were being compensated for the loss and they had to pay the compensation bill. In other words, if you make externalities internal to the supply and demand decisions, we have notions in the banking sector that there's something very strange about banks borrowing short but lending long, and going to the central bank to be bailed out if necessary for liquidity needs, and a world in which governments can't allow major banks to go bust, major financial institutions to go bust, even though they seem to become, they seem to show signs of being natural monopolies. You get a few major banks in an economy. It's very noticeable in Europe, less noticeable in the United States. But still, pretty noticeable. as their experience has been in the last half century. We're not clear. We want the market to truly take over, free market anyway, because we value predictability and reliability, and such is necessary for civilization. And the free market doesn't in any sense promise this. Quite the reverse. In other words, we have values that cut across simply letting the market determine production and distribution of resources. And that's the fundamental problem, if you like, facing mankind. And it's closely allied to what's basic in our model, which is the utility function. The market is made up of individual decision makers, or be they households, perhaps, and now firms and government bodies at different levels of government, that each are assumed, perhaps reasonably, to be making selfish decisions, whether it's to stay in office, stay in business, earn profits, or maximize consumption utility. Quite simply, the hidden hand is not as noble as we thought. And doesn't simply come to the rescue of players that are not operating the same welfare function. It's as simple as that. I mean, in a very sort of banal way, I want to say the problem is we don't love each other. We love ourselves. And that doesn't result in overall a happy situation. We are so myopic. Is it really the case that my true benefit lies in the benefit of all? Or am I in competition with all? That very often their gain is my loss, my gain their loss. Well, it's not necessarily so. Whether it is overall or not, we don't know. It's all uncertain. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.